Good morning, Year 4. Our learning intention for reading is to discuss techniques used by authors and illustrators to hold the reader's attention or to entertain the reader. Yesterday we saw how our author had hooked us in at the start using a rhetorical question. We discussed how Beth is the narrator of the story, as it's she who is telling us this story. Today we want to look at how the author allows us to get to know Beth as a character, what she feels, how she acts. And we're going to look at the visual literacy technique of gaze. This is the next page of our text. Take a moment to have a look at that picture. What do you see? What do you notice? What visual literacy techniques has our illustrator used here? As I look at the image of Beth and Molly standing there with what looks like all of their worldly possessions here, everything that they own, I wonder what they're thinking. Are they happy to be there? Are they scared? Are they relieved to have been able to escape England? Are they missing people back home? Let's discuss their gaze, or a gaze is the direction in which the characters are looking. And an illustrator will use gaze to help the reader look in a certain direction also, to draw the reader in. So, are they looking straight at us as the reader? This is known as demand. Or are they looking at something or someone else? This is known as offer. The purpose is to make us look where they're looking. What do you think? Is their gaze demand, looking at us as the reader, or offer, looking somewhere else? I think their gaze is an offer. They're looking over here. They're looking ahead. I'm assuming they're probably looking at their new home, maybe this strange new land that they're in. Perhaps even they're looking towards a brighter future. And because I'm starting to feel more connected to Beth, I want that bright future for her too. And I also want happiness for her, and I'm hoping that her new future will bring that for her. So let's read the next page. We were met by Mr. Brady, the surgeon from our ship, who told us we were to be his servants. He told us to carry his belongings to the hospital at the end of the beach. Once he had unpacked at the hospital, he told us our duties were to help with the cooking and to get a garden started to grow fresh vegetables. Mr. Brady sat down in the shade of a tree when we left to collect firewood. I saw him open his journal and he began to write. This journal here, it's written by Mr. Brady. He's the author of that journal. And so here we get a little perspective from someone else, not just from Beth. It's interesting to me too that the entire letter isn't able to be seen. I wonder why. We do also learn more about Beth and Molly here and what's going on in the colony. So Mr. Brady says, now that some tents have been put up for them, all the women and children have come ashore. Some of them will still have to sleep outside. They came here with only the clothes they are wearing, as somehow all the women's belongings were left on the wharf back in England. I wonder why that might have happened. I have a convict child, Beth, and a young orphan girl, Molly, helping me now. I have put them to work clearing the rocks from around the hospital tent and fetching wood for the cooking fires. The next paragraph talks about the natives, and this is cut off a little bit. The natives are not coming close, but keep watching. And then it mentions Governor Phillip, who was overseeing the colony at the time, wants us all to be kind to them. But then the next line's cut off. I find that interesting. And so we get a little insight into what's happening here in the colony and how people are coping, what people's roles are, and what's happening to some of the convicts as they arrive in Australia. The next page is a full page of images. This picture draws me into the friendship and strong bond that's developing between the two characters. I see two best friends here who look like they don't have a care in the world. Life seems quite good for them. But we know differently. It's been months now since we arrived, and my hands are cut and bleeding from digging rocks out of the ground. Molly has splinters from collecting wood for the fires. After work today, we walked up the hill behind the hospital, and I smiled as Molly rolled and tumbled in the long grass. It was the very first time I heard her laugh. This line here, it was the very first time I heard her laugh. How does this line make you feel as the reader? The authors told us here that Molly, a young girl, a young child, has never laughed before. Why? Do you think this is fair? Do you think a child should be able to laugh? Why hasn't she laughed? Why has her life been so hard that she's had nothing to laugh at? It's this use of emotive language that connects us with our characters. Your task today, you are going to show us how well connected you are to the characters in the story. So you're going to choose one character, either Beth or Molly. And now that you know them a little bit better, I want you to think about 3 images that would represent one of them. You can upload your images onto the water bottle. And over here, explain how and why you think the images you've selected represents the character. This is your chance to be really creative and to think deeply about Beth or about Molly, what they're going through, the relationship they're developing, and how well you understand them. Have a great day of learning, everyone.